Yeah, so I'm gonna start recording now, and I'm gonna share my screen.
All right.
So let me share my screen, and then we can jump on the lecture today. So let me just put in present mode. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So today we're gonna continue our study of the book, What is Spiritism? So this little book here. And so today we're going to cover pages 39 to 46. And we're still on the biography which of Allan Kardec, written by Henry Sauce, which used to be a good friend, a close friend of Allan Kardec. So on the previous sessions, we spoke about when Allan Kardec published the Mediums book, and the phenomena of like the books, the burning books in Barcelona. So when the church and the political confiscated thousands and thousands of books and they burned on the streets. So today we're going to continue on talking about Allan Kardec life, and after publishing the Spiritist books and the Medium books, Allan Kardec went in an excursion through over 20 cities in 6 weeks to promote the spiritual book. If you think about now, if we have to go to 20 cities in 6 weeks, we think, yeah, we have enough time. But if you think about 150, 160 years ago, travel from one city to another city would be so complicated. So, and I imagine the cost. So how you go, how you take all the books, there is no airplane. So I imagine like the logistic should be really hard. And even to promote the books, because today we have the internet, we have media, we have all the ways to promote something. But back in the day, I don't think we used to have like uh, so many tools to allow us uh, to explore that. So I was quite impressed to know that he organized everything by himself and he paid for all the costs. So, oh, it's 18, not 19. So there's a mistake there, typo mistake. On 1865, Kardec published a new book named Heaven and Hell, which contains several examples of situations of the spirits in both spiritual worlds and on earth, along the reasons for each situation. Let me just check if I don't know how I can see if people were connecting. Let me stop sharing for a moment. No, it's here. Yeah, no, it's all good. So for those who had the opportunity to have a read or have a look at Heaven and Hell, it's an amazing book. It's split it in two pieces, in two parts. And one of the parts, they have a lot of like related experience for spirits in the spirit world, where they tell about their story, what they went through, what's the reasons, and how was their life in the spiritual world. So it's a very good read, which can teach us a lot about the consequences and what's happened after life, after this body. So I know a lot of people who have a lot of questions and doubts about afterlife. This is a really good book to exemplify what's happened when we disincarnate, when we leave this our body. The Spiritism was a quite success. If you think about back in the day when we have like a lot of scientists and we have the church and we have people who doesn't have any spiritual belief, the Spiritism was a new idea, and, and that spread quickly through France and then Europe. If you think about the world back in the day, France was um, France was a lot of intellectuals. Uh, they they come from France. A lot of art, design, and sophistication come from France. So that's why Spiritism started there, because it was much easier to spread to the rest of the world from France back in the day. But as you can imagine, as people start getting into and learning more about Spiritism, a lot of people they didn't like it. So they didn't like Allan Kardec, they didn't like the concepts, the idea, so the philosophy. So a lot of people start uh, become very vocal against the ideas that the Spiritism shared. And Allan Kardec, he had a good wealth situation, but he wasn't like super rich. So he was working long hours through his job, and after hours, he was working on the Spiritism books. So his physical and his mental body, like the state, was exhausted. And he was warned by the spirits, and he was aware that he wouldn't last more than 10 years. So what he did, he took all the opportunities that he has and gave everything to Spiritism. So I was reflecting about that, and it's so brave from him. Like he shows like how good human being he was and how evolved he was to dedicate his life, his savings, his time, everything that he has to the cause. So it was amazing. So if today we are having the opportunity to study and to learn s amazing things that Spiritism brought to us, uh, was because of his dedication. And I was like, I'm very grateful for all his dedications for many years, which could have caused his life at the time. So in 1868, Allan Kardec published the fifth book named Genesis. And was a very, very important book because Genesis tells the story from the beginning and explain the $1 million questions where we come from. So Genesis has all the answers for these questions. And if you read the Genesis, you're gonna see elements on the other four books, which all the things connect. It's a really good book to read and to study, especially for those who like the scientific part of the the Spiritism. Genesis has a lot of explanations and examples and explain in details um, a lot of like the phenomena, the miracles. Um, so it's a very interesting book. The last moments of Allan Kardec. So Allan Kardec occupied himself with a plan to organize Spiritism. So he gave everything that he could to start living and sharing the philosophy and the practical aspect. Because when we study Spiritism, it's super nice to think about um, the philosophy things, like, oh, how good it is when we reduce our pride, when we become more humble, when we become better persons. But if you don't put that in practice, it's really hard. So I think that's the main difference on Spiritism philosophy and the other philosophies. Because on Spiritism, everything that you learn, you can't unlearn. So at some stage, you're going to have to live by the new values and the new information that you got. So if you think about yourself in your life from the angle of like, I just live one life, and when I disincarnate, it's the end, there is no continuation. Maybe you're going to make actions and choices in a way. But if you think about, oh, I'm incarnated here, but I'm spirit. When I disincarnate, I go back to the spiritual world, and then I will be back again. And everything that I experience will have an impact and effect in me. So you're going to make different choices. So you're going to live in a different way. So that's why it's super important to learn, to study, to educate yourself, but to practice as well. So on March 21st in 1869, at 65 years old, Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail died in Paris. So he had an aneurysm. He was quite young, so I was surprised. So, as we mentioned before, his wife, she was 9 years older than he. And when he passed, she was 74 years old, and she lived until 89 years old. So, I would like just to finish this chapter and this study. So, I think like when I think about the work that Allan Kardec has produced in such a small um, space of time, so if you think like we're talking about just a few years, maybe 10, 12 years, and he produced so much, he learned so much, and he dedicated so many hours to share everything that he learned and to put himself to organize and codify all like this huge amount of informations. So it's amazing, and because of him and like the spiritus and his friends who helped him, nowadays we have this amazing philosophy and knowledge and information that we can study, review, reflect, learn, accept, and we can improve ourselves. So we know how long does it take for us to start improving and accepting new concepts, changing habits, and but I'm really grateful for all this knowledge that we are receiving in a way that it's very easy for us to get access, to read, to study, and to exchange ideas. So, uh, so his friend who wrote his biography, Henry Sauce, so he finished this first chapter of this book with "Blessed be Allan Kardec," and I think that's beautiful because his work in his life was really really amazing. So I think was an amazing opportunity for us.
Okay. So,
Comments, Flo?
yeah, so look, I was, as you were saying now at the end, I just remember like being, you know, Kardec, since the moment he actually found out about all the phenomena that were happening, he started actually gather, information, and all the mediums during that time already had lots of information. And he managed it literally in a space of 2 years to put all that together and release the first book. And
Yeah,
we're talking about 860, which is, everything it was written by
by hand.
feather
Yeah,
hand. Yeah. So like the old
yeah,
pens. And
and sending
and
letters to other countries, which will
yeah,
take
it's just like,
ages.
it's like, I don't think a normal person, even with all of that, could make it. Like he was probably so like his criterias that he used, and it's just like being a scholar, being like a teacher, and that definitely made a massive difference for the work he produced. And spirituality, as you mentioned at the beginning, when they put it to him that it was going to be a very tough, and that he would not last too long. Yeah, once
Yeah,
he accomplished the mission, he would leave the material world, and he took it. Yeah, like he's accepted his fate and his responsibilities, and he did an amazing job. What can I say, right?
yeah,
So
I
it's just
agree.
unbelievable.
I agree.
So
It's outstanding. So let's just show
yeah,
us which the level of the evolution that he had at the time.
and it's funny. Like I'm following a study about the Spiritism book, which is actually the first one he wrote,
Yeah,
and right straight on the introduction, he's already do a very like uh, he actually does explain in the introduction everything that's actually written in a book.
yeah.
Yeah,
An
giving
amazing
the
summary.
readers, yeah, an insight what's the book's about.
Yeah,
And he does that the same, like you mentioned, the hell and heaven. Yeah, so the first part of the book is also explain spiritism,
yeah,
the philosophy, the scientific part and whatever, and then goes into cases, like
yeah,
like how, for me, like I read Hell and Heaven it was such a big impact, because until then, these questions, but then when you read a like a spirit that actually disincarnated, and how was the transition, because I think the biggest fears people have, yeah, when they believe or in something, is what's going to happen to us when we leave this world.
yeah,
This is the biggest problem. Like all the conversations I have, people that don't believe, they're not religious or anything, and they have this mindset that after we die, we just disappear.
yeah,
And for them is just when it gets close to the time that they have to go, they're afraid,
yeah.
because they don't believe in anything.
Yeah, and they don't know what's going to happen. So That's why it's so important, these type of
Yeah.
books. And after that, we have so many other books
Oh
talking about
yeah.
afterlife, like after the body. So it's
Yeah.
amazing, like how this information can help and educate
Yeah.
us as society to make better choices, to live our lives in a better way.
And
So
not just that, like, because lots of people that when something bad happens to them, they normally turns against God and say, why God let that happen to me? In Hell and
yeah,
Heaven, it shows actually not just that, it say what you've done in previous life,
yeah,
and it's actually a consequence. Some of your, sometimes people disincarnate due to consequences that things they've done in previous life.
yeah,
So when you see life in just a point of view of now, it's very hard to understand why things can happen to us. But if we have knowledge that we have probably done things in the past and now we have to repent for it,
yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. When we think about the continuation of our internal experience of learning and how um getting the ownership of like every action that we take for, on us and on others. So
Mm-hmm.
the cause and consequence of that, the impact mm, about like our actions, like change all the perspective on how we live, how we make decisions, how we think about ourselves in a way that like living in another country or making a choice, like everything change, I think, when you
Yeah.
have this knowledge and these perspectives. I think if I didn't believe what I believe about reincarnation and progression, I don't know if I would take half of the decisions that I took, you know?
But I don't think that is the knowledge that actually is actually put that in action. Yeah, because sometimes we know things, but it's so hard to put them in
Yeah.
action. So the knowledge is relative in a sense.
Yeah.
It's what's more important is actually when you acquire this
Yeah.
information is how you're going to use it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Okay,
When,
because I know lots of things. There's lots of things I still not be able to do it.
yeah, when the knowledge is part of your
Yeah,
lifestyle.
it's put in practice is the biggest
Yes,
part of
it is. It is. And it is the hardest part.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think it was I love study about Hindu, and make me think how how much more we can do and how much further we can go, and the amazing power that we have in our
Yeah,
hands now to be
yeah.
more
But I think
with
it's such
ourselves. Like,
yeah, it's such a difference. Like when you read a book in one go, and is when you actually study and discuss part by part.
yeah, and reflect.
Because you actually, yeah, and I've seen that like in many of the study groups that have been part of it, and sometimes even watching, stuff that's over now on the internet and
Yeah,
stuff, that it's amazing. Like, you're getting different views from the same, you can put you can read a paragraph in there and everyone might have something different to say about that.
yeah,
It's
and
completely different.
yeah, and it's like these spirit books. Every time that I read something, I get like a different perspective
Yeah.
and I reflect in different things. I love that say that the same man never will go on the same river twice, because when
Mm-hmm.
you go again, you're not the same, and the river is not the same as well. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's what I think. Like once you read something like that, which is so profound with so much information, deep information, that impacts you. And after some time, when you go and read again, like you're gonna go deeper and deeper and get other types of reflections. So that's what like blows my
Yeah.
mind when I because you read once and say, okay, I got it, and then you read again and say, wow, I got in a completely different way. It's like, and then
Or just adds up to what you know, I think.
yeah, but you can go deeper and deeper because now
Yeah,
you're prepared to go deeper in your reflections and with your
that's
knowledge,
true.
knowledge that you have already. So it's really nice.
Okay. So I don't think we're gonna. Do you wanna keep recording, or do we?
Now I'm gonna stop here and then we do our final preparations and
Okay.
we connect again for our next class.
I don't think we need to because we're only the two of us. You just
Yeah,
can disconnect the recording.
yeah.